Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Good morning and welcome to the Community Issues Committee meeting for Thursday, May the 14th. If we can start with a roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. Councillor Bieber? Here. Councillor Campbell? Present. Councillor Croson?
Present.
Councillor Doria? Present. Councillor Parker? Not here today. Councillor Wolf?
Present.
Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Dodick? Not present today. And Mayor Higgin?
Present.
Thank you.
All right, the City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we're gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. So I have a motion from Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the May 14th, 2026 agenda of the Community Issues Committee meeting be adopted as presented. Acting Mayor.
Thank you very much. Clerk Hilford, do we have any additions, changes, updates, anything to the agenda?
There are no revisions to today's agenda.
Thank you very much. With that, I will call for the vote.
Question has been called. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to operating budget workshop, and I'll turn that over to Mr. City Manager and or his designate. We'll start off with him and be passed along. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members of council. Today's workshop is focused on the 2027 operating budget. The purpose of this session is to walk through the structure of the draft budget, review the major budget pressures, and provide council with information needed before budget deliberations in June. This is intended to be a workshop discussion. The goal is to build understanding, answer questions, and support council's review of the draft 2027 operating budget materials. Next slide. On April 30th, administration provided CIC with an update of the 2027 operating budget pressures. Today we'll go into the 2027 operating budget in more detail. We'll begin with an overview of the operating budget, including the differences between the base budget, budget pressures, and budget initiatives. We'll then review one-time funding and one-time allocations, followed by a walkthrough of the draft operating budget document and binder sections. After that, we'll provide an updated overview of the 2027 budget pressures. We'll then turn the presentation over to the city manager to speak to the proposed budget reduction initiatives. We will close with next steps for council leading into the June budget deliberations. Next slide. The first section provides a high-level overview of the operating budget. Before we get into the specific 2027 pressures and budget initiatives, it's important to clarify what the operating budget funds, how it is structured, and how the general fund and utility fund work together. Next slide. The operating budget funds the city's day-to-day services and programs. This includes services such as police, fire, parks and cemeteries, transit, water and wastewater, snow removal, libraries, arenas, pools, and other municipal services residents rely on every day. For 2026, the total operating budget is approximately $505 million. That amount is made up of two major funds, the general fund and utility fund, which I'll go through on the next slide. The city's revenues and expenses, as I mentioned, are separated in two funds. The first is the general fund. This fund is supported by property taxes, user fees, grants, and other general revenues. It funds services such as police, fire, parks, and transit, our streets and roads, libraries, pools, and other tax-supported municipal services. The second is the utility fund. This fund is supported by utility rates paid by customers. It includes services such as electric, water, wastewater, landfill, garbage collections, and recycling. As noted on the previous slide, in 2026, the general fund was approximately $300 million, and the utility fund is approximately $205 million, totaling to that $505 million of our total operating budget in 2026. This distinction is important because not all operating pressures affect property tax rates. Utility-related pressures are generally funded through utility rates, while general fund pressures can affect taxation. Next slide. Now moving to the next section that explains three important building blocks of the operating budget, which is the base budget, budget pressures, and budget initiatives. These terms are used throughout the budget process, so it's important that we have a common understanding before reviewing the 2027 budget materials. Next slide. The first building block is the base budget. The base budget is funding required to maintain the city's current service levels. It includes the programs, services, and ongoing budget initiatives that council has already approved. For 2027, the base budget starts from the approved 2026 service levels, including any ongoing initiatives that were previously approved. In simple terms, the base budget is the budget council has already approved unless council passes a resolution to change, reduce, or remove a service level. Next slide. Budget pressures are significant cost or revenue impacts that departments are facing in the upcoming budget year that are not already included in the base budget. These pressures can come from several sources. Some are external pressures, such as changes from other levels of government, legislative requirements, or reductions in grant funding. Some are growth-related pressures, such as the cost of maintaining new parks, trails, roads, or other infrastructure as the community grows. Others are inflationary pressures, such as increased fuel costs, contract costs, insurance, and personnel costs. In addition, operating costs that arise from previously approved capital projects are included as operating budget pressures. This is one of the ways that capital budget and operating budget are connected. As the budget process moves forward, administration provides council with updates on the major pressures affecting the upcoming year. And as I mentioned earlier, that we did that on April 30th at the CIC. Next slide. Budget initiatives are proposed changes to the operating budget that are not already included in the base budget. They can include service enhancements, which would increase service levels, or budget reduction initiatives, and we'll see some of those later today, which would decrease current service levels or reduce costs. Budget initiatives are important because they give Council the opportunity to connect strategic priorities to the budget process. Council's action plan and strategic direction can be reflected through initiatives that are considered during budget deliberations. Departments may also bring forward initiatives where service levels need to change or where there are opportunities to improve efficiencies. And the latter part on the cost reductions, you'll see some of that today. Each initiative must be reviewed and approved by CIC before it can be included in the approved operating budget. Once an ongoing initiative is approved, it becomes part of the base budget in future years. Next slide. The next section focuses on the one-time funding and one-time allocations. This is an important concept because one-time funding can be very useful for one-time costs, but it can create a long-term financial risk if it's used for funding ongoing services. Next slide. There is an important distinction between ongoing costs and one-time costs. Ongoing costs are costs that continue year after year. Examples include salaries, fuel, utilities, maintenance, and other recurring service costs. Because these costs continue beyond the current year, they need to be funded by an ongoing and sustainable revenue source, such as property tax, utility rates, or recurring user fees. One-time costs are different. These are the costs that occur once and do not continue into future years. Examples could include a one-time purchase, a one-time program, or a temporary project. One-time costs can appropriately be funded from reserves, grants, and operating surpluses. The key principle is that ongoing costs should not be funded with one-time money. If they are, the city creates a funding gap when the temporary funding runs out. Next slide. The key principle, the budget principle, is that nature of the funding source should match the nature of the expenditure. Ongoing funding should be used for ongoing expenditures, and one-time funding should be used for one-time expenditures. Using one-time funding, once again, for ongoing costs creates instability in the budget. It can make the budget appear balanced in the short term, but the underlying structure becomes unstable. It can also misrepresent the city's long-term financial health because the city may appear to have enough funding in the current year while creating a gap in future years. That is why administration continues to emphasize the importance of aligning ongoing costs with ongoing revenues. Next slide. This slide outlines the city's current practice for transfers to the Municipal Revenue Stabilization Reserve, or MRSR, and the use of one-time allocations. Corporate variances are transferred annually to the MRSR. At the end of the four-year budget cycle, any remaining department rollover is also transferred to the MRSR. In addition, any funds remaining for committees of council and the end of the operating budget, at the end of the operating budget cycle, are transferred to the MRSR. For one-time allocation, the city's long-standing practice is that funding from the MRSR be limited to a maximum of 50% of the previous year's operating surplus, or previous period's operating surplus. This approach helps preserve the sustainability of the reserve. Funding from the MRSR should be used for non-reoccurring and one-time expenditures, not the annual operating costs. The amount available for future one-time allocations for the 2028 to 2030 operating budget will be further assessed through the operating forecast and budget process. Next slide. However, the slide shows the impact of the recent corporate surplus and one-time allocations have on the amount of one-time funding that may be available for the 2028 to 2030 operating budget cycle. When we combine the 23, 24, 25 corporate surpluses, approximately $10.4 million was transferred to the MRSR. Under the city's practice, only 50% of the amount is available for one-time allocations. That means approximately $5.2 million is currently available. However, Council has already approved $7.5 million in one-time allocations during the 2023 to 2026 period. This means current commitments exceed the available one-time funding by about $2.3 million. As a result, future one-time funding for the 2028-2031 budget cycle will depend heavily on whether the city has corporate surpluses in 2026 and 2027. The key takeaway is that the city is currently relying on future surpluses to close the current one-time funding gap before additional one-time allocations can be considered for the next budget cycle. Next slide. The next section walks through the draft 2027 operating budget document. This is intended to help council understand how the binder is organized, what information is included, and how to review the materials before deliberations. Next slide. The draft budget is divided into 4 main sections. The first section is the 2027 operating budget introduction. The second section is the operating budget summary. The third section is the budget initiatives. And the fourth section is the grant and fee for service funding. The 2027 operating budget is being prepared as a 1-year extension of the 23 to 2026 operating budget. So the document is structured to show the changes and decisions required for 2027. Next slide. The first section of the 2027 operating budget is the introduction. This section provides background information on the 2027 budget process, including why the city is preparing a 1-year extension and how the draft budget has been developed. It sets the context for the rest of the binder and helps explain the budget approach being used for 2027. Next slide. The second section is the operating budget summary. Each department has its own budget summary sheet. These sheets are show the department's revenues, expenses, and net impacts on taxation. The 2026 to 2027 change column shows the increase or decrease in the tax support portion of the budget. The analysis of changes section provides more detail on the reason for those changes. These notes are important because they explain why and what is driving the budget movement from 2026 to 2027. Next slide. The third section includes budget initiatives that will be considered during deliberations on June 10th and June 11th. The initiatives are organized into 3 main numbering categories. The A category, or A initiatives, are addition initiatives. These are potential service level increases or new funding requests not currently included in the base budget. The N initiatives are budget initiative extensions. These are initiatives that are previously funded through one-time allocations and are being recommended for extension into 2027. The R initiatives are reduction initiatives. These are proposed decreases to current service levels or cost reductions for council's consideration. This section will be key part of the June deliberation process. Next slide. The fourth section is grant and fee-for-service funding. The section summarizes the funding provided to community organizations through grants and fee-for-service agreements. For 2027, the proposed increase for fee-for-service agreements is 1.9%. This section allows council to see the proposed funding amounts and understand how community groups' allocations fit within the overall operating budget. Next slide. The next section provides an updated overview of the 27 budget pressures. These are the major costs and revenue pressures known to date and form the starting point for understanding the proposed tax impact before any reduction initiatives are considered. Move to the next slide. The slide shows the first group of 2027 budget pressures. The CIP operating costs, including the approved pay-as-you-go increases, total approximately $328,000 or 0.16% on taxation. Allocations to community groups total approximately $253,000 or 0.12%. This includes grants to organizations such as the Food Bank, Soup Kitchen, Habitat for Humanity, the proposed 1.9% fee-for-service inflation increase, and Southern Alberta Crime Stoppers that Council requested or approved to come to the budget process. Service level changes represent a large pressure. This includes Excite Lethbridge Society, operations and encampment-related costs, including LPS costs. Together, these total $3.2 million or 1.55%. Inflation, including personnel and contract inflation, is approximately $6.3 million or 3.05%. These pressures are largely the result of previously approved decisions, external pressure growths, and inflation required to maintain current services. Next slide. This slide outlines additional pressures related to provincial decisions, external requirements, and other items that may be delayed to 2028. Provincial decisions and external pressures total approximately $3.2 million, or 1.53%. These include the impacts of photo radar changes, body-worn camera for LPS, and other policing-related requirements such as wiretap, crypto crime, phone cracking investigations, testing, and drug-impaired driving, and the naloxone subsidy. The slide also identifies other pressures totaling approximately $3.5 million, or 1.69%. These include airport reserve, planning and development reserve revenues, transit operations, parking reserve, stormwater maintenance, and business license revenues. Administration has identified that these other pressures could potentially be delayed to 2028, depending on Council's direction and further review. Next slide. This slide summarizes the total budget pressure known to date. Before any relief is applied, total budget pressures are approximately $16.7 million, or 8.1% on taxation. The largest pressures are inflation at 3.05%, service level changes at 1.5%, and provincial decisions external pressures at 1.53%, and other pressures at 1.69%. The budget also includes relief. Assessment growth provides approximately $3.9 million in relief, or 1.89%. Increased MRSR budget allocations provide approximately $1.5 million, or 0.75%, and the end of the internal loan payment for the VLA Centre provides approximately $468,000, or 0.3%. Together, the relief totals approximately $5.9 million. After applying this relief, the total budget pressure is approximately $10.8 million, or 5.23%. Next slide. This slide provides more detail on those other pressures that may be delayed until 2028. The airport reserve pressure is approximately $1.5 million. The ongoing service level is still being determined, and one-time funding from the reserve may be an option for 2027, which is needed to be reevaluated for 2028 and onwards. Planning and development revenues is $750,000 pressure. This should be reassessed after the current budget cycle and after the user fee and rate structure review is completed. Transit operations have an ongoing deficit of approximately $483,000 that will need to be reassessed for 2028. The parking revenue reserve pressures is approximately $390,000. Council has directed administration to explore options to increase cost recovery from parking enforcement and residential parking permits. So therefore, it may make sense to defer that or delay that change until 2028. Stormwater maintenance is a $300,000 pressure. As infrastructure continues to age, maintenance needs are increasing and the current budget is not keeping up with those demands. And business license revenues is a $55,000 pressure. Addressing this would require an increase to business license fees. The key point is that these pressures are real, but administration believes they could be delayed into 2028 for further review. Next slide. This slide shows the revised budget pressure scenario if the other pressures are delayed to 2028. By delaying those pressures, the subtotal budget pressures decrease from 8.1% to 6.41%. After applying the same relief from assessment growth, increased MRSR budget allocations, and the end of the internal loan payment, the total revised budget pressure is $7.3 million. That equals a 3.54% tax increase. This is a significant reduction from the original 5.23 pressure after relief and from the 8.10% pressure before relief. Next slide. This slide provides a longer-term view of the Lethbridge property taxes increase compared to Alberta CPI. The purpose is to show the 2027 estimate in the context of the past increases in inflation. The revised 2027 budget pressure of 3.54% is lower than the original pressure identified earlier in the process, but it remains above estimated Alberta CPI. This provides important context for Council. The budget pressure has been reduced, but the City continues to face financial pressures from inflation, external decisions, service level requirements, and previously approved commitments. Next slide. I will now turn the presentation over to the city manager to speak about the proposed budget reduction initiatives. These initiatives are intended to help reduce the remained 2027 operating budget pressures and bring the proposed tax increase closer to inflationary target.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So as is illustrated on the slide in front of you, the organization's facing significant financial pressures. So at my direction, the executive leadership team and I have been working with departments for some time to review their operating budgets and the associated pressures. General managers were asked to undertake a thorough review of departmental budgets and service levels and to identify potential reduction options. These options include both a one-time and ongoing opportunities. However, the primary focus has been on sustainable, ongoing cost reductions that support long-term financial sustainability. Administration has demonstrated a strong commitment to identifying efficiencies that help mitigate pressures within the operating budget. These reduction initiatives were developed thoughtfully, with care taken to avoid significant impacts to service levels wherever possible. The 2027 operating budget includes a number of proposed reduction initiatives for Council's consideration, aimed at bringing the projected tax rate increase closer in line with the inflationary budget. While I will not be speaking to all the initiatives in detail, I will highlight a selection of 10 of them on the next two slides, which correspond to pages 50 to 51 of the draft operating budget, or pages 92 to 93 of 147 of the larger PDF approach, depending on which version you use. The full details of each initiative, which I believe should answer many of your questions, can be found on pages 60 to 61 of the budget document, or pages 102 to 143 of 147 in the longer PDF version. I had to quickly write those notes down.
I will thank you for Deputy Mayor Doyle.
There you go. I use the other version. I also encourage Council to review the full list of 42 initiatives. Should you have any questions on any items not addressed in my remarks, both I and members of the executive leadership team are here and prepared to respond. Next slide, please. So I will start with R6, advertising reduction. This initiative proposes eliminating print advertising placements, resulting in an annual budget reduction of $50,000. The organization will shift to fully digital and alternative communication channels to share public notices, program information, and community updates. This change reflects evolving communication practices and leverages more cost-effective platforms while maintaining the ability to reach residents with timely and accurate information. R8, honorarium reduction. This initiative proposes the elimination of honorariums currently provided to public members who serve on a volunteer basis on boards, committees, and commissions, resulting in an annual budget reduction of $48,000. These bodies will continue to operate with volunteer participation as is current, but without an honorarium like prior to 2023. Maintaining their advisory and governance functions without financial compensation. This change aligns with compensation practices with the organization's broader fiscal priorities. Next section is under People and Partner Services. R17, Utility Billing and Customer Care, Monthly Administration Fee. This is a proposed $1 increase to the monthly administration fee on customers' utility invoices. This would increase the fee from $7 to $8 per invoice per month. The $480,000 annual increase is based on 40,000 invoices per month, or $40,000 per month multiplied by 12 months. R18, Utility Billing and Customer Care, Printed Utility Invoice. This would be charging a $2 monthly invoice fee for customers who choose to have a printed mailed invoice. This would be a new fee and would be based on the narrative that a printed mailed invoice is a higher level of service that a customer should pay for. Right now, about 17,000 customers still opt to have a printed mailed invoice. The $200,000 revenue increase would be 50%, or 8,500 of these customers continuing to opt for a paper invoice. The $200,000 expenditure decrease would be 50%, or 8,500 of these customers switching to e-billing, thus saving us an expense associated with printing and mailing. R19, utility billing and customer care, utility invoice reprint fee. This would be having a new $5 fee for customers who request to have the utility invoice reprinted. On to infrastructure services. R20, eliminate Saturday summer service for routes 51, 52, and 53. This initiative proposes reducing Saturday service on routes 51, 52, and 53 during the summer months, May through August. This period aligns with the end of winter semester and the start of the fall semester at the University of Lethbridge, when student travel demand to campus is significantly lower. R21, eliminate summer service for Route 62. This initiative proposes removing summer service on Route 62 during the period from May through September. This timeframe corresponds with the end of the winter semester in May and the start of the fall semester in September at Lethbridge Polytechnic, when student travel demand to and from campus is significantly reduced. Next slide, please. R23, eliminate Christmas tree recycling program. Feel a little like Scrooge. The City of Lethbridge had a Christmas tree recycling program for many years. It contracted the collection of live Christmas trees and paid the contractor, which was typically a nonprofit organization such as Scouts or sports teams. Given that live trees are not as popular as they once were, in fact, less than 1,000 were collected this past year, and the ability to put them into the organics cart cut down, of course, this program could be limited or canceled. R25, eliminate free Saturday disposal at the Waste and Recycling Center. Remove the existing free disposal of the 250 kilograms of garbage on Saturdays for residential customers at the Waste and Recycling Center. And on to community services, R41, digitization of the leisure guide. Recreation and Culture is looking to transition from a printed leisure guide to a more digitally focused guide. The department would continue to provide a much simplified version of a printed format, but the focus would be on a digital format. In addition to that, there are a number of initiatives that I won't go through unless council would like me to, related to parks and cemeteries, all the way from R31 right through to R39. I would suggest that council wants to take some time to read those initiatives and refer to the pages and the details, as well as all of the 42 initiatives. And whether you want to take a few minutes now or ask any questions, we're here and prepared to respond as required.
So we'll go to questions here. Councillor Crowson?
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. My question actually goes to Mr. Matthews' earlier presentation. So we were talking earlier, and stormwater maintenance, I know we've talked about this, is under taxpayer funded instead of utility funded. How did a few past councils determine what was utility and what was taxpayer? I've always kind of assumed if it's on your utility bill, it's utility, but there doesn't seem to be a definition, there doesn't seem to be a policy. How is that determined, and how did stormwater maintenance sort of get left as taxpayer? Because I know we don't pay for it individually because it's just coming off the road. And should it be a utility, I guess, is where my question is sort of heading.
Thank you, Councillor Crowson, for that. I think, as we look at how each organization is set up and so forth as a municipality across the province, they may have some differences in the way they developed it over the years. Most organizations, at least in Alberta, would have things like water and wastewater if they have electric, and not all municipalities in Alberta have electric as a utility, but those ones are typically, councils had this set up when we had fund accounting in the past, and they would separate it up as a separate fund, being a utility fund, and they actually made bylaws and so forth that actually went that direction on it. I think for stormwater, the difference was at one point in time, and I don't know if Mr. Sanchez or Mr. Lowen has anything else there, but at one point in time, my thought process on this, it was seen as part of transportation and part of the road construction components. Only later seen as a different subcomponent of those and broken off and to be managed separately on that. I can't remember how long ago it was, but there was at one point here in Lethbridge where some a decision was brought to council or information brought to council to create a stormwater utility that didn't go through at that time on it. However, we actually believe that stormwater is actually better in a utility side and a utility component, and I think Mr. Sanchez could give you a little bit more reasoning around that as well, of why that would be the case versus inside the taxation component of it. I'll turn over to Mr. Sanchez.
Yep, just to add a little bit to what Mr. Matthews explained, I think historically it has been like that at the city for many, many years. Other municipalities used to do the same. They used to have a stormwater based on the principle of the transportation. Everything goes through the culverts and back to the storm management system. But over the years, I will say in the last 20 years, most municipalities have transitioned to a utility charge. The main reason is it's based on the footprint of the house, the roof, how much waste rain has been collected there, and that will go eventually to the stormwater management system. And that's where we are currently working with as part of the cost-benefit analysis that we're doing for the water and wastewater to add this, and we will be coming back to council in the fall with recommendations in terms of this. Part of the work that is being done is a benchmark. We're comparing across all municipalities in Alberta and defining what is the best practice, and if we decide to go that route, how much will be the fee that we could charge in order to be proactive, because one of the main issues is that today, as part of the taxation, we don't have enough revenue, and we have been deferring some of the maintenance just to avoid additional expenses, as Mr. Matthews explained before.
Okay, because we always talk water, wastewater. We haven't talked about storm, water very much, except for like the Yellow Fish program. I must admit, it's not one I think much of. It's just sort of there. I'm glad we're going to be having conversation about it because, I mean, that water goes directly into the river without us doing anything. And it has such a potential for causing problems with the river. So I'm glad we're going to be looking more at that. Thank you, because I've always kind of had a question about that. Mr. Brierley, you have several proposed budget reduction initiatives. In some ways, I feel we might be putting the cart before the horse. We're having now service level conversations, and every one of these is a service level conversation. Is there any opportunity for the public to have a conversation about this before the 2027 budget? Because that's June 10th and 11th, right? So this is going to be, it would be the gut instinct of council on service level changes at this point, right? That's not the public.
You know, I defer to council's thoughts. I think today is probably a key aspect. These have been out there. It's
Okay.
It's tight, yeah, and that's where I highlighted some of them for discussion. I think some are easier. It is always tough to find reductions or revenue opportunities, and these are the ones that appear to have the greatest potential with the least amount of impact.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's always that we're trying to move everything ahead at the same time. It's just as we're having service level conversations or trying to get that policy and everything written, everything else has to move along as well. So we only have a month essentially to talk to the public. It may be up then to each individual council to talk to the public or whatever their public is so that they're prepared to argue for or against it at council meeting, at budget. Okay, that's what I kind of wanted to put out there. Is public be aware that these are service level changes and they might be going ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm seeing all of these, and you've kind of spoken a little bit to it. If they're at 0%, it's actually a percentage, but it is so minimal that they'll need a lot of those smaller ones to add up to a 0.1. So could you not go over, I know this is kind of a pain, but to go over two digits rather than just the one so we could see? Like example of by eliminating free Saturday disposal, if we say it's going to cost us 0% to community, if we can have 0.01 or whatever that number is, if it's a couple, it may help better understanding. I don't know if that's possible or not.
One piece of clarification is that talks about tax decrease. So on the utilities side, those would be utilities impacts. So that's the.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's important. Thank you so much for that. That does make total sense. So the 0% is on tax, but it's, okay, great. Thank you.
Still saves you money, just saves you money on.
It saves you money on your utility bill, not on taxes.
And they're only showing tax decrease on that. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that, yeah, because it's in an R, okay, I see that now. I just wondering if other people are going to be as confused as I was when I first saw it. It makes total sense now. but-
Apologies, I should have clarified that before I began. I thought about it and then I forgot when I started speaking. This was overall trying to find opportunities for savings efficiencies on both tax and utility.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Councilor Bieber.
Mayor Hagan, I was just wanted to ask a question about the Saturday free disposal, because we know how popular that is. I wonder if there's been any considerations about the ramifications of this. If it's not free, are people going to start putting their stuff in ditches or using BFI bins throughout the city? Because obviously that's such a huge thing. If people aren't going to get it for free, is there going to be some other way that they're going to be disposing of it in a way that isn't going to be really acceptable?
Turn that to Mr. Sanchez.
Yes, that's an excellent question, and we have thought about the possibility, because you're 100% right. If you recall, back in the day, we have this spring cleanup program to precisely deal with this. That's when the free Saturday was actually amplified. And one option that could be considered is, instead of fully eliminating the free Saturday disposal, is limiting the amount of tickets. So each household could get a number of disposals, let's say 10 a year, and they can use those. One of the main issues that we have today is that we rely on what people that goes there tell us. If they give us a phone number or a postal code that is within Lethbridge, they can access the site, and it's really hard to monitor how many times they go multiple times a day, so there is a little bit of abuse of the program. So by doing this, we will ensure that we can actually be a little bit more effective on the delivery of the program, reduce future utility rate increases for the waste program, and we could also bring that option to only have 12, where people will get those tickets and then they can use them as they wish.
Acting Mayor.
Thank you very much. And just to follow up on that, Mr. Sanchez, we're still keeping the large item pickup service, correct?
That is correct. That program still remains in place as it is today, and is a complement for the free Saturday disposal program.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, just follow up, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. Budget initiative R7 fees for SDAB and CRAB approvals or appeals. I see we would be proposing an introduction of a $300 fee for each appeal submitted. Are there any unintended consequences we should be anticipating with this? We've been free up till this point to submit those. And maybe this goes to the city solicitor. Are we creating a barrier to access for those appeals? Is there an unintended consequence that this could come back on us, that we are not allowing people to come forward with their appeals by creating a barrier to access? I'm not sure who can answer that. I know it's, yeah. If somebody could answer that one, please.
I'm looking to the team here. Yeah, I'm not aware of anything. Happy to research
Yeah,
that.
if we could look into that.
And report when we come back answer that more fully.
Because I'm certainly not opposed to that, but I just wonder if there's something we're not thinking through. I see that other municipalities are doing it. I'm sure it's fine. It's just, I just wonder if there's something that we need to look at there to make sure that we're not missing something. On R8, again, to the city manager or to your designate, these are relatively new honorariums that we're looking for public members. I know that we have reduced the numbers of committees. We implemented this as a council to see if we could recruit more people to these positions. Has that strategy worked? Is the honorarium encouraging more people to apply? Is it not? Have we seen a correlation to that?
Thank you for the question. We did implement these honorariums in 2023 as per council direction. So we've only had a couple years of data. Whether we've had more people apply, I would probably look to council because you do the interviewing and you see all the resumes and do the vetting of that. And whether it's quality people, I would leave that up to your thoughts. But Mr. Westerson, do you know if we've had more people apply in the last 3 years?
At this time, we actually have seen a bit of a downward trend
Okay.
in the last 2 years.
And that's what I'm looking for. I mean, the quality of applicants that I interviewed for the positions I did were fantastic. But I'm wondering, we implemented this as sort of an incentive for more people to apply. And I'm just wondering if it worked or not. The other one more question in relation to this, if I may, we've got the 48,000 there. Are we actually spending that amount? I know that's what we've allotted. Are we actually spending that amount?
I'll defer to Mr. Westerson, but I believe if everybody came to every meeting, we would be spending that allotment. I thought it was around 40,000 in 2025, Mr. Westerson, to confirm?
Yeah, we have not spent the full allotment on the honorarium since 2023. In the budget initiative sheet, it does note there's a cumulative amount of $26,000 that's been unspent since the inception of this honorarium program. At this point in time, we anticipate to spend just shy of the 48,000 if every 52 members that we currently have on our board, commission, and committees attends every event and or meeting that is currently scheduled. But that is something that we do not believe will occur this year.
Okay, and we have, even with the reduction in boards, commissions, and committees over the past year, we still have 52 volunteers that we are providing honorariums for?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Doria.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Haggin. My question is directed to Mr. Matthews. I'm just wondering, you presented the operating budget pressures, and there is other pressures that could be delayed in 2028, but there is no itemized what are those pressures, but it was proposed to be decided that it could be eliminated so that it can be, we have less pressure. So is it possible also to indicate what are those proposed other pressures that can be eliminated or can be delayed until 2028? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doria. So if we go to slide 25 of the presentation. So this slide here identifies all the amounts that make up that amount. So that includes the airport reserve, the planning and development revenue, transit operations, parking reserve, stormwater, and business license. Each one of these.
Stormwater there. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the stormwater was part of that. So what we're seeing on this, the total of that amount, which comes to that 1.69, or the other on that other on the slide, it says other, is the total of all these. So if council deferred all of these until next budget cycle when we get additional information or other analysis, because each one of them has a reason why we could do that. It would just be a discussion next year in deliberations for the 2028 to 2031. The pressures don't go away. on it. But we think that through our existing operating budget, we'll manage them just like we have, or in the case of the airport reserve, just like council has approved for 23 to 26, to continue just taking that difference from the airport reserve until we have some other components. So that's where the 1.69% is coming, and that's what makes up that amount.
Are there other items that can be added to this to be considered to be postponed or to be deliberated in 2028, or these are the only recommendations that you have?
No, thank you, Councilor Doria. That's a good question. So all that we know right now, or what administration believes, these are the only ones. The rest of the pressures that you're seeing along the journey above on the other items are things that either council has directed to put into base ongoing, so when I say that, that would be, for example, the food banks and so forth that are inside of there. The other ones are pressures that are unfortunately coming from other levels of government, like a lot of them. So body-worn cameras, the photo radar pressures, we can't really control those, and that goes back to the fact of one-time versus ongoing funding for those. So no, I don't think they're necessarily, from administration's point of view, is. I mean, sure, council can consider some of those other items and have questions on those and ask us, which items that, if they wanted to do something different on those, other pressures, but most of those ones in there are kind of out of our control or council decisions to continue them on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. Can you go to the previous slide, Mr. Westerson? Yeah, that one will do. So we saw some numbers where we went from 5.23 to 3.46, I think. Then with these proposed budget reduction initiatives, is that already in the 3.46, or could then further lower it?
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. So if you go to slide 32 of the deck and on it.
Oh, there we are, yep.
Yeah, so what this is doing now, if council approved all of the initiatives that are before you, reduction initiatives, and also other initiatives that are increasing, it would take us to a 2.65% tax increase.
For 2027?
For 2027 only.
Okay, a couple of other questions that I made. This is probably for Mr. Sanchez. So R20 and R21, these route reductions, does that mean eliminates any bus service at all to the university and the college during the summer months, or is it just a reduction of service to those facilities?
Those two are just to stop the service during the summer month, so there won't be any service during that period of time.
Okay, thanks.
And we have Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. I don't know if this is the time to discuss or just, I mean, we're having discussions, but I just saw airport reserve, and I know, I mean, that the state of the airport is in flux. The aviation industry is in flux. Are we having a philosophical discussion amongst people involved with the airport about what our airport serves us for? I mean, and maybe this isn't for in camera, but I mean, is it are we making any kind of money for other kinds of transports that come into the airport? I mean, I know there's always been concepts about what the airport will bring, and rezoning, all of that stuff. But so where are we at with kind of rethinking what the airport means to a city our size and what we're going through?
Turn it to Mr. Ulrich.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Campbell. That's a great question. We will be coming to CIC on June 2nd to provide an update to Council on that exact information. So we are looking at some opportunities in terms of detailed pieces. We would likely have to go into close for some of that just because of the sensitivity of the information. But yes, we are looking at all opportunities in terms of air service as well as non-air service. So looking at revenue generation such as hangar information or storage information that could be there. So we're looking at the the possibilities of what other options we could bring with the airport, but we'll have more information that we brought forward on June 2nd.
All right. Good, thanks.
Councillor Wolf?
Thanks. Back to Mr. Sanchez. So with these two routes for the post-secondaries, do we have a concept of like, okay, so if the buses aren't diverting into the college, presumably there's some kind of existing route down Scenic, for example, that would now be their closest stop. Is that kind of the thinking for these two scenarios?
Yes, that is correct. It will be a service, not precisely to the location. And also, just to clarify, the reduction on service is only for Saturdays. The service will still be there Monday to Friday, but the reduction we're proposing is only Saturdays. So that's what will give us that benefit. They will still have a service, but on Saturdays, they will need to walk a little bit longer because they will use other stops that are close by.
Okay, thank you. And so is R21 a Saturday as well?
That one, I will need to, just give me 1 minute and I will let you know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I should have read that better, but yeah, it makes sense. Thank you.
Councillor Crowson?
Thank you, Chair. I ask this every time. I shall ask it again. Mr. Matthews, walk me through your assumptions and all your biases around the assessment growth of 1.89%. How did you come up with that number? How conservative is that? And will we hit it, or will we, as we do every year, bring in more and we're just not budgeting for it?
Thank you, Councillor Crowson, and yes, always a welcome question. So yes, we do budget conservatively for that, and we do that for a reason, because obviously overestimating our growth would just put us into a deficit pressure in funding for ongoing funding for our operations. The 1.8%, we take a look at the overall development during the budget cycle, so over a number of years of what we see going along, and of course then we take a little bit more on the conservative approach of what that number is. So it is likely that what we see, that what will happen is that we will collect more, hopefully, from that, but it also protects us from when we have downward pressures locally. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if all of a sudden, more inflation or slowdown in the development happens where people aren't buying new homes or commercial enterprises aren't developing, then we're not having a budget pressure to fund our operations. The good news of going through that kind of approach, and the reason why we do it that way, is that then, just like now, what you're seeing in here on the assessment growth of that 3.9 million that's on that screen, council takes it in the next budget cycle. So yes, it is in the short term, it goes in, it helps with one-time amounts for council can use going into the MRSR for other pieces. And then on top of it, what it does then is it comes into play to help offset the inflationary costs of the next period of time. And in some ways, you could look at it from, we had a member of the public yesterday at CIC talking about pressures and so forth. Why don't you plan ahead to offset so we don't have large pieces? Well, you could actually say that in some ways this is a means of doing that, because if we don't overestimate and try to get right down to an exact number on the growth side.
And we are actually seeing some places, Lethbridge is a little out of step with it, but with house prices going down in different places. And so we are having to readjust for that as well. The other question, of course, we have encampments. We have conversations constantly about why are we taking on things outside of our jurisdiction. Whose jurisdiction should encampments actually be, and who's paying for it?
Do you want to go to that one? What do you want? Oh, so I'm just looking at Ms. Kleisinger. Maybe she'll add in something here or correct me if I get it wrong. So from the point of view of encampments and so forth, I mean, it's a complex issue. I'm obviously inside of there, but it really falls into the provincial and in some cases, depending on, it could even be federal jurisdictions of it. And that's why you would see in our CSD areas where we have funding from the federal government and locally, although we don't manage it as much anymore from that point of view, the provincial government brings in funding to the Lethbridge Housing Association and other groups that actually provide some of the supports, our wraparound supports. So although we're doing encampment strategy components A lot of that is a provincial matter or federal matter, but I'll let Ms. Kleisinger add in any of her thoughts as well.
One of the key components of the encampment strategy, and one of the reasons I think council took a leap of something that may be described as out of jurisdiction, is the aspect of community safety. So the first line of the encampment strategy speaks to where parks and open spaces are available for all. And one of the ways that we're able to do that is through our encampment strategy of keeping people moving along, not being entrenched, and making sure that all of those spaces, Galt Gardens, Civic Field, and some of our other parks and pathways are always have it where families and anyone who wants to use them can use them. So that's where I think we took that stretch of saying, well, City Council really truly cares about the health and safety and community part of Lethbridge, and community safety is a big part of that, and so our encampment strategy helps us do that.
Okay, and final question. We're talking, thinking, planning, if we go through these budget reductions, to not plant brewery gardens?
Any of the parks initiatives that you see there are bold and for consideration. I would say that contained within the parks one, there is a lot of maybe council might want to read those sheets closely, knowing that you have done reductions to parks in the past.
And it hasn't gone well.
Yes. So what we wanted you to know is that there are many different opportunities, and where I think the difference this time around versus what council's seen in the past is a dollar value reduction that just gave sweeping changes across the city and parks that residents didn't like. So now what our parks manager has done and the parks team is they've broken them into different components of what could be. I would say that if you chose all of them, there would be drastic changes the community may not like. So there may be interest for you to take a close look and see which ones might be more palatable than others.
Yeah, and that's why I bring it up in case everybody hasn't read it carefully, because somebody will read that and that will be hitting social media, I'm sure, pretty quickly. And there is no decision made. These are just suggestions. You brought as broad a suggestions as possible, knowing the final decisions will be made by council June 10th and 11th.
Absolutely, and where we wanted you to be able to see them broken out is the opportunities that exist for service level reductions, but not saying that they're all would be well received.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I believe we have, Mr. Brierly, you had a response for the question that I previously had?
Yes, I just realized my mic was on the whole time. I do. 2R7, yes, the city solicitor can revise my wording. I'll be careful to not speak for him, but legally not an issue, and this is typically common. We do have the ability to charge across municipalities, so if Brian wants to weigh anything, and then the city clerk also has some further comments on it.
Yeah, it's not controversial legally that we can charge a nominal fee. Theoretically, if you were to try and charge something that was not really a fee but was just prohibitive, like let's say $100,000 for an appeal, there would be legal issues, but as long as we're in the neighborhood we're in, that's generally accepted.
Okay.
And fees for subdivision development appeal board are common across the province in similar size municipalities like ours. We also do currently charge, we've charged for years for assessment review board appeals, and that's up to $650 per appeal. Now I lost my train of thought. So yes, that would be fine to charge. There would be no issue with that. What else did I want to say about that? We could maybe look at, like, assessment review board does charge for residential a different fee than non-residential. We could look at different fees for charging for different classes, and that might be palatable. Okay, thank you.
Actually, yeah, if we could look at that, that would be great if we could have that presented.
Yeah, the composite are complex. They're significant and usually significant dollar value associated, so it would make sense that those would be more costly.
Yeah, no, that would.
And if I could just add, in the last few years, we've had at least two massive subdivision development appeal boards with many participants and appellants and thousands of pages of disclosure.
Yeah, and having sat on that board, I understand the complexity of work, which is why, yes, if we looked at some different levels of fees, that would be good. And then I believe, Mr. Sanchez, you wanted to respond to a question that Councillor Wolf had?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to answer that. So I did check with the team effectively. Route 62 will be eliminated during the summer time, so there will be no bus service. The numbers that I got is typically during the summertime, the reduction on ridership is close to 90%. So it's only a few students, and we also will have Route 2 available during the whole summer. Route 2 just goes 250 meters from the college, so that they will need to walk those a block and a half or 2 blocks to still access the college. But there will be significant savings if we do that.
To follow up on that, Mr. Sanchez, have we spoken with the university and the Polytechnic on this change? Have they had an opportunity to respond to the potential change? And will they be, can we encourage them to help us with the communications around this?
So there have been some communication happening with them over the past few months, specifically on the reduction initiative being presented. We're doing this as a public forum today, and it's part of the engagement. We're going to still meet with them and communicate and explain that it's not that they're not having the service, but because they only have a 10% ridership during those months, we will consider having a Route 2 still available, and they can access that, which is only 200 meters, but will be part of the next steps.
Okay, and it's how much will it affect or impact other ridership? Like, are we going to see a massive impact on other ridership?
It should not, because again, as I said before, Route 2 does the same route, but does not go into the college. So it doesn't go that extra 250 meters in and out, which we will still provide a service through that route.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bieber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we're going to keep Mr. Sanchez busy here. Regarding the leaf collection program, I know we've got the seasonal yard waste sites. We've got the green bins that are hugely popular. I mean, it's $55,000 savings, but I'm wondering if this is going to have impact on seniors who don't have ability to get to yard waste sites, or who maybe have a lot of trees in the yard and they're filling up their green bins pretty regularly. Have we looked into who this actually is going to affect?
Yes, thank you for the question. And yes, the team has been looking at different options, and with the introduction of the green card a few years ago, that's another way that they could, senior people that cannot access the yardway size, they could use their green card, and maybe it might take a few weeks, and especially during the summer, the service is weekly, so they have more opportunities to dispose of those leaves over the time, so they could store them for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and still use the green card in order to get to dispose of the leaf. And that will also allow us to receive all that material at the compost facility and reuse that.
Thank you.
Councillor Crowson?
Thank you. Referring back to my earlier question about when the public can respond, just for process, today we're bringing this forward. This is now public. Everybody's aware what we're doing. June 10th and 11th is when we'll have the budget deliberations. That is being held at a CIC, which means the public will also have an opportunity that day. We'll let them know when they can come forward. They could ask questions, voice concerns, raise questions at that time. Am I correct in my understanding of the process, Ms. Hilford?
Yes, absolutely. At a CIC, the public would be able to come forward, speak on any issue.
In any way they want to around it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to confirm that the public will have a chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez, I think the Christmas tree recycling, I think normally the idea is they're chopped into mulch of some kind, correct? That people can then get for free? Is that usually what happens?
So the trees, they are sent to the Waste and Recycling Center, and they are part of the wood grinding program that we have. That wood grinding is either being used at the organics facility, or is also sold to third parties that they use that for their operations. So that's what we currently do with those. Last year, as the city manager mentioned, the number has been declining all year over year, so that's why this is being proposed. But the mulch that residents use is mostly coming from the Parks Department on the operations that they do with their mulching program.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to circle back to Councillor Croson's questions on R36, and that is the planting at Brewery Gardens. Have we looked at, with some of these parks initiatives, have we looked at volunteer recruitment to help us with, I know we do some parks volunteer programs where we have volunteers come in to pick garbage and help keep our parks clean. Have we looked at a parks volunteer program, particularly with Brewery Gardens?
No, we haven't. We do have the volunteer programs, as you spoke about with Adopt a Park, but nothing specific to Brewery Gardens.
Okay, so there's opportunity for that we could look at volunteers to help us preserve the beauty of that particular site.
Yeah, I think we could definitely explore that.
Okay, and then R6, this to the city manager or designate. We are looking at that advertising reduction. I understand that we will be evaluating that with key indicators. So just so I know, and understanding that even still advertising in the Herald does provide and reach an audience, is there an opportunity that should we see issues with regards to the digital engagement metrics, that we will be able to reverse that decision and go back to advertising in the Herald? Because we still reach an audience, and particularly with regards to public hearings, resolutions, notice of meetings, all those sorts of things.
Short answer is yes, but if it's, so this is mentioned, so there's a couple, R6 and R41.
Yeah.
Both have print impacts. Those are ongoing, so we would have to, council would have to reapprove the money. So if that initiative was accepted, the reduction made, and it was a change of course, then that would be an ongoing pressure added back.
Okay, so maybe it's, as council's looking through this, maybe instead of cutting the whole thing, it is looking at a reduction in the spend at this time, rather than completely cutting out of all that advertising. I would just really hate to lose those audiences without knowing how much audience pickup is happening, especially especially in the Herald print publications.
Yeah, and I'll defer to the team, but I think our initial indications are that this was an opportunity. None of these, it would be, I won't say impossible, but challenging to find any reduction initiative that doesn't have some degree of impact. And so, when you're mitigating pressures, there's always a feeling of loss, or there will always be someone that is not happy, but it's the cake and eat it too scenario where we have to say, okay, out of potential options for reductions, all of these that are before you here today, the 42, would be the least impactful.
Yeah.
Beyond this, it just gets harder, actually.
Yeah, and this is why, again, our service level discussions are so important as well, which we're going into having. My final question then will be on R11, where we're looking at workflow efficiencies, integration, modernization. And I'm guessing this would be for you, Mr. Matthews, is there a long-term savings on this that we are going to miss out on? So are we cutting this, but would we recognize more long-term savings by not cutting this and by having this move forward?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Schmidt-Rempel. So in this regard here, these are things that actually came about from efficiency works. So this one here is not going to be directly in this way. This reduction piece would not be something that would be that where we couldn't, it's going to affect us in the future on that point of view. We do have the other initiative that's in here, which is increasing, was the asset management, which is the offset flipping of that. So we do have another one in there talking about that, which is in our area, but this one here is some really good work from the teams of how they've looked at this. And we've been able to use technology and so forth to actually do efficiencies.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? My queue is cleared right now. This is your last chance. Until June. Yeah, until June. All right, I have a motion. Can I get a mover? Councillor Crowson. Oh, yep, Mr. Brierly?
Actually, one thing I just want to bring to members of council's or committee's attention. So all the numbers you're seeing here, the 2.65 though, does not include the decision on EHS. So, and the decision of EHS to actually take a look at, if we're not successful, it's too early to tell yet, and then that's the reason why we don't have it in here, because the direction is, we're still working with our partners on that. But if, for example, it's no longer, and we're no longer in the service. As you recall from those presentations, there would be an additional 0.5 for fire only, and of course, whatever decision that council would have on medical first response. Yeah. So just want to make sure that's clear that the 2.65 that's here, that would go up by another 0.5 or to 3.15 if we're not successful in that and it's fire only, and then another 0.5, at least for right now, if you're at the higher end of the medical first response.
Okay, and since we've got this chart up here, one question I do have, we see we are looking at perhaps dropping to that 2.65, and we see from 2022 to 2023, that jump of up to 5.1. When does the drop down to 2.65 catch up to us, like the 0% drop caught up to us?
Thank you. That's a good question on that. They're all good questions, but I appreciate the question on that is probably a better way of saying it. So what we are doing here, one of the things that, from administration's point of view, barring the reduction initiatives coming along, we are maintaining our work and rolling over in the information for 2026. We do have inflationary prices in here, our estimates for 2027. So that would be different than what we saw back in, when you get 0% back in 21 and 22. So it won't be as drastic as that. But I have to say that not all departments were able to, in this one, because of the way we did it, to deal with other inflationary pressures along the way, and that'll be come into the 2028, 2031 budget. So here again, and also those other ones that we're deferring. So i.e. that 1.69 that Councilor Doria was asking about, that will come back in a year from now and in discussions as we start going into 2028 to 31. It's not quite the same as zeros from that point of view, but it's also, this budget isn't the same as what we would normally do. Yeah, it's limited in scope.
Yeah, and just so the community is aware of that too. It is limited in scope. This is the one-year stub budget. The full operating budget process goes through next year. While we might see this reduction here, this very well might not be sustainable.
That's right.
Because of those budgetary pressures, because of our four-year budgeting process, because we are going to start talking about service levels and making sure our community understands what those service levels are and what their expectations are, along with tying it to our other plans.
And if I may, one other piece to that, as we heard yesterday and so forth, and I know administration has discussed this, as we start going through the asset management sides and so forth, whether it's on our taxation or our utility sides, there's also larger decisions on that for council to figure how do you, that line on when we look at the wastewater side, where do we go to get the right amount in future years? Even though we're dealing with this on the pay-as-you-go front, how do we deal with that? Those are also things that we'll have to be dealing with, and I would assume starting into 2028 to 31 operating budget to assess those. How council decides, how much and how we deal with that, that'll all be other pressures above inflation that we'll have to consider.
Exactly, and just going back to the asset management plan, we don't have all the asset management in place, so there's a lot of things we don't know at this point too.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, I do have a motion from Councillor Crowson, 2027 Operating Budget Workshop. Be resolved that the Community Issues Committee consider this information in preparation for the June 10th and 11th, 2026 Community Issues Committee meeting regarding the 2027 operating budget deliberations. Councillor Crowson.
Well, I feel more informed, and now we have a month to inform our public even more, and we will talk about this more on June 10th and 11th, and I hope everybody else is more informed, and call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. Could I get a motion to enter the closed session from Councillor Campbell? Be it resolved, we do now enter a closed meeting at 10:18 a.m. to discuss confidential matters with respect to item 6.1 as per section 29, advice from officials of the Access to Information Act. Councillor Campbell. Question's been called. All in favor? And that passes. We'll move into the closed session.
Thank you. I do have a resolution here coming out of close from Councillor Croson. Community grant modernization. Be it resolved that the Community Issues Committee recommends City Council to direct administration to further examine options for a competitive funding framework for appropriate grant tax supported types in the Category 1 grants and community grants of the operating budget and report back to Council by Q4 2026 to inform the 2028 to 2031 operating budget deliberations. And number 2, include the Northbridge Senior Centre operating grant as part of the initiatives to consider at the 2027 operating budget deliberations, and further be resolved that the Community Issues Committee direct that the closed meeting documents, discussions, and report with respect to the community grant modernization remain confidential pursuant to Section 29, advice from officials of the Access to Information Act. Councillor Croson.
Thank you. There's a lot in here, and if people who think they are part of this have questions, they can reach out to the CSD department or to myself, and we'll explain what's going on here. Also, of course, we were talking about this more June 10th and 11th. That is a CIC, a Community Issues Committee meeting. People can ask questions on anything there, and that's where we will see Northbridge being discussed as part of the initiatives. This is our ongoing work to better the projects, or better the process that we have here, make it so that all organizations are facing the same applications, have the same requirements, doing things in a way that is fair and equal. Staff will be working on this. We will see this later. There'll be a chance to review it again. Thank you to Mr. Malcolm, Ms. Kleisinger, everybody who has worked on this, because this is years in the making to move ahead, and I will call the question.
Thank you for that, Councillor Croson. Question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
He just
And
has
with
to
that, we
adjourn
are
us.
adjourned.